making some custard tarts today, nice little snack. Now, what we're going to be doing is actually making our own homemade custard. Delicious, bit of lemon, and we're going to use a bit of cinnamon, sort of flavour it all up. Now for the bases, we're going to use a puff pastry. Now to keep it really simple, I'm going to use a ready-made, ready-rolled puff pastry. So all you've got to do, cut them out, pour in the custard, bake them, and you've got this really nice, light and airy, crumbly sort of puff pastry, and in the middle you've got this really mouth-watering sort of custard. Absolutely delicious. Now first of all, I'm just going to run you through the ingredients we're going to use. Now I've got some milk there. I'm using full fat, so whole milk, 10 fluid ounces of that. Then I've got some double cream, 2 fluid ounces of double cream. I've got 3 eggs. Now what you need to do is to separate the yolk from the white. So we'll do that in a little bit. You know, you just got to sort of get the yellow bit out really, the yolk. And we need 3 of those. Then we've got the lemon. I'm just going to peel the outside of the lemon. Not all of it, just about 1/3 of it really. So just sort of peel the outside yellow bit, and that'll just give it a nice lemony flavour. Also 1/2 stick of cinnamon. If you haven't got the sort of stick of cinnamon, then obviously you can just put some of the sort of sprinkle, like the ground cinnamon that I've got there. Then you've got some caster sugar. I'm going to use 3 dessert spoons of caster sugar and 2 dessert spoons of plain flour. So all that I've mentioned is going to go in the pot, and we're just going to put it on a simmer really for about 10 or 15 minutes, give it a stir until it's sort of nicely thickened up. So what I'm going to do first of all is to separate the eggs, because we need to sort of crack on with that. So let's do that first. So what we're going to do is grab an egg, and we're going to separate the egg yolk from the white. So just give it a bit of a chop like that, and then you can just pull it apart. Initially I'd say let some of the white sort of come out, and then what you can do is you can just start rolling that from side to side, and then you can twist the egg a little bit and do the same. And again, just wait sometimes, because you'll get some more out. You get the general idea anyway. So there we go. I've got the 3 in there. It doesn't matter if they break, as long as it's near the end and you haven't got too much white. I mean, it doesn't matter if you got a little bit. So that's fine. I'll move that out of the way, and there we go. We've got them there. So now we've separated the 3 egg yolks, what I'm going to do is actually put all the mixture in this jug here, give it a whisk, and then we can put it on the hob and just put it on a simmer and let it thicken up. So let's get the ingredients in there. Now first of all, obviously we're starting with full fat milk, and we've got 10 fluid ounces, so that's 1/2 pint roughly. Then I've got those 3 egg yolks. Then I'm just going to put in 2 fluid ounces, I'm looking on the side there, so it's about 2 fluid ounces of double cream. Then I've got some caster sugar, and I've got like a dessert spoon, so I'm just going to put in 1, 2, 3. Then we've got 2 dessert spoons of plain flour, so there's 1, that's 2. Just add just a little pinch of salt, so not very much. So I'm just going to give that a gentle whisk really, just to try and get the lumps out. So you might have to do this for a minute or 2, just, you know, have a look now and again and see when the lumps have gone. So I'll just carry on. So I've been mixing it up for a good minute, probably nearly 2 actually, because I want to try and make sure that you get all the lumps out. So we finished whisking that. Now just before I put the lemon sort of peel and the cinnamon stick in there, there's one ingredient I forgot to put at the start of this video. So it's vanilla extract, and what you want to use is 1/2 teaspoon of that. So it's a liquid, you just pour it in like that. It does make a difference, it really gives it a nice flavour, a vanilla flavour in fact. And then I've got that sort of, you know, the outside of the lemon, just cut that up, because we're going to sieve it at the end anyway. And there's the bit of cinnamon stick. So we've got all the ingredients in the jug, including that 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. So it's all there. Now what we're now going to do is go over to the hob, get a small little pan, tip all these ingredients in, and then what we need to do is just put it on a simmer for about 10 maybe 15 minutes. Stir it quite often actually, especially near the end. And then once it's all cooked, we just drain it through a little sieve and you'll have a beautiful homemade custard. I'm just going to switch the heat on. I'm just going to put it on a simmer. Now to start with, you don't need to stir it quite as much, but obviously do occasionally stir it. As you go through the time, it starts to thicken up. You've really got to make sure you're stirring it sort of almost constantly really towards the end. But we just want it to thicken up just a little bit. So as I say, just give it an occasional stir at the start. So we're coming up to about the sort of 8-minute mark, and it's just starting to feel to me that it's getting a little bit thicker. So I'm just starting to stir fairly constantly now. Now again, don't have the heat too high for doing this. You can just do it on a fairly nice low heat. Might take a minute or two longer, but at least you're in control of it. So I'll just carry on stirring this until I think it's sort of thickened up enough. So mine's pretty much done now, really nicely thickened up. I mean, this has taken about sort of 12 minutes in the end, but you know, just keep on stirring it, especially at the end, and it gets all the lumps out and you've got a delicious custard. I mean, obviously, if you wanted to just use this as plain custard with a bit of ice cream, you could cook it a little bit longer and it will thicken up a little bit more, but that's perfect for how I want it. So what I'm now going to do is to take the pan out of the way. I'm going to get myself a bowl and I'm just going to pour everything through the sieve so that what we're left with is a nice smooth homemade custard. So I'm just going to scrape that out and get all the juice to go through. All that in there and just sort of rub it through really. Try and get as much of the custard as you can go through. So I've got all that through. Look at that. Now we're left with a really nice custard. Look at that. Beautiful. Let me try that, see what it's like. Lovely, lovely. That is really nice actually. Just a custard, bit of ice cream. Beautiful. Right, now what I'm going to do is quickly put a bit of cellophane over the top of that, and I'm just going to leave it until it cools down. So it's going to take a little while. Now what we're going to do in the meantime is to get our puff pastry, cut out the little circles and put them in the baking tray. So once this is all cooled down, we can just pour it into the puff pastry bases. So put a bit of cellophane over, leave it to cool down and get on with your pastry. Now with the puff pastry, obviously I've got my ready-made, ready rolled. So it keeps it really nice and simple, because all you've got to do is cut out the shapes, put them in the sort of baking tray, and then you've done it. So you just pour in the custard, put them in the oven, bake them up, and they're delicious. So we'll get the puff pastry out in a minute and I'll just cut the shapes. But before I do that, I've got my tray there. Now this is the same tray that I use for jam tarts and mince pies. It's got a sort of curvy bottom which helps them sort of, make sure they don't stick to the bottom. Now we're actually going to put some butter all the way around all 12 of those. There's my pastry cutter, so I'm going to use that, and that's the biggest one I've got. It's bigger than the hole, so just pop 12 of those out and then eventually we can put in this really nice homemade custard and get them cooking. The first thing I'm going to do is just get me butter there, which I've got on a bit of the packaging, and I'm just going to run round and just try and get some on there. Make sure you get butter all the way around, because there's nothing more annoying than when you get sort of the puff pastry bases sticking. There you go. Now I'm just going to move that back a little bit so that we can actually get the puff pastry and see how it's done. So let's have a look. The less you can kind of muck about with it, the better. So let's just pull it out, and I'm going to cut out 12 of those, so I reckon we'll do that. So let's pop those out, and I'm going to put them in the actual baking tray. So there we go. We've got the 12 out there, and we've got all the sort of leftover bits. So I just put those aside. Now with these, what you want to do is just gently kind of push them in. It doesn't matter if they're not, exactly the same around the edges. It doesn't matter, because these kind of puff up anyway, but you just want to push them down a little bit. That's it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop mine in the fridge just to let it cool down very slightly. So I'm going to pop mine in the fridge. So I've got my custard and I can't wait any longer. It's not completely chilled out, but that'll do. Let's have a look at it. Just move that in the view. Look at that. It looks like custard. Perfect. So move that aside, and what we're going to do is to actually get those puff pastry bases that I've just had in the fridge just chilling out for a moment. So I've got the bases there. What you want to do is just put in a fair amount of this custard, because what you'll find is when you cook it, it looks really good and it gets nice and brown and really inflated, and then suddenly when you take them out of the oven they kind of deflate and you get one really small, but they're really delicious, so don't worry about that. They sort of melt in your mouth. So I might put a little bit more in that one. So I'm just going to carry on with all of those. So I've got my custard tarts and I've filled them up as much as I dare really. So what we're going to now do is just put them into the preheated oven. As I say, roughly 15-20 minutes until they've all puffed up, looking delicious. So I've just popped them into a preheated oven. Now temperature wise, 190 degrees Celsius, 375 Fahrenheit, gas mark 5. So I've left me custard tarts for about 15 minutes, and you can see the pastry is all kind of puffed up, got a little bit golden brown around the edges, and that sort of homemade custard has gone just a little bit brown on top. So we're nearly there really. So what I'd say is another 2 or 3 minutes at the most, and we'll pull them out and then we're going to try one. So I'm just going to pull these out. Whoa, pretty hot. Let's just have a look. Be really gentle with them. I'll just try and bring those into view. Look at that. Look gorgeous. Let's put them on the table and see how they are. So I've got my custard tarts and I've just taken them out of the oven. Now as I said, they would sag, so they've all kind of sort of folded in, but don't worry. Obviously this pastry is really nice and you've got this beautiful sort of custard, homemade custard in the middle. So what I'm going to do is put a couple of those on a plate, and we're going to put a little bit of ice cream. I've got a little bit of leftover sort of custard, so it'll make a really delicious pudding. Now I'm just going to serve a couple up. Oh, this one looks good. Look, beautiful. Yeah, maybe this one's good. I'm going to put 2 there. Look at that. Lovely. I'm going to put a little scoop of vanilla ice cream. Delicious. A little bit of that homemade custard. And let's just finish it off. A little bit of ground cinnamon. Beautiful. Let's try some of that. Looks fabulous. Now I'm just going to try some of that. Looks absolutely splendid. Let's just try a little bit of this custard. Look, nice thick custard. Let's just try that. Oh, it's lovely when it's nice and cold. It's cooled right down now. Now I could try one of these, but I think I'm actually going to pick it up, because you can look, listen to this. Can you hear that? That's the beautiful kind of pastry. Look how beautiful that is. Let me try that. Gosh, show you that. Oh, that is absolutely splendid. I can't tell you how nice that is. And it's warm as well, because that custard in the middle, melt in your mouth. It's just warm and beautiful. And you've obviously got it with that vanilla ice cream. Oh, and that custard as well. This is just delightful. Delightful. Thanks for watching, and I really hope you enjoy as much as I do. The original Naked Chef. Oh, I love it.